Hello, today I'm sharing with you a tutorial on the head hugger shown here. There's two parts of it. There's the hat part that has loops in the back, okay? And then you sew up the tie as well. And both pieces are reversible. So here you can see I've got kind of a batik and then a metallic print on the other side. Same for the hat, okay? So you can have a lot of fun with combinations. You could do a solid on the inside and a print on the outside, vice versa. Now, one note, this pattern was first developed by my stepmother, Christy Menchu, and she sold it on her site, Sweetbriar Studios. She retired her site last year and offered me the pattern to develop and sell. So this is a slightly modified version of her pattern. I did a couple of adjustments to the pattern, but it's the same idea that she started with. So if you're familiar with her Sweetbriar Studio design, it's basically the same thing. The steps to sewing this are the same. It'll sew up pretty quickly and it makes a great gift. Fun accessory if you just don't feel like doing your hair. A lot of people who are going through chemo love this as a gift. And then there's lots of ways to style the tie, which I will show you at the end of this video too.
You can find this and my other patterns on my Atelier Joy Etsy shop linked below. Please like and subscribe. I'll be adding more tutorials on a regular basis. Okay, here are all the fabric pieces that you'll have to start out with. Starting from the top left corner, you've got one piece of batting. Then you've got your loops, 2 in fabric A, 2 in fabric B. Then you've got your hat back, 1 in fabric A, 1 in fabric B. Then you've got your ties, 2 in fabric A, 2 in fabric B. And then circling all the way around, you've got your hat front, 1 in fabric A, 1 in fabric B. All right, first step is to make your loops. So you're going to take each loop piece, press the top and bottom up by 1/4 of an inch, then press it lengthwise in half. Then bring those edges into that middle crease and press, and fold it all again down the middle crease and press. Then you'll repeat that for the other 3 loops, so you have 4 loops total. Top stitch down the long edges as close to the edge as you can. On your hat back, you should have marked the loop placement. Now you're going to place your loops on those spots and pin in place. Top stitch at the top and bottom of each of those loops, making sure you back stitch so that those loops are super secure. Now lay your batting on the wrong side of one of your hat front pieces. Baste in place with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now it's time to put the hat front and back together. So you want to lay the hat front down with the right side up and then lay the hat back on top of it, right side down. Make sure the part of the back with the loops is at the bottom. You're going to match up the center notches and then match it up all the way down the sides. Where you did the clip line on the hat front, that's where you're going to turn the corner on the hat back, so it'll line up with that corner. Now you're going to stitch the hat front to the hat back with 3/8 inch seam allowance. I just used the side of my presser foot for the seam allowance measurement. And when you get to those corners where you did the clip line on the front and it turns the corner on the back, you want to go pretty slowly on those corners and just make sure you don't have any wrinkles in there. And when you get to the corner itself, you plant your needle and then pivot and keep going. Now you're going to press that seam. A tailor's ham is super useful for this. You can press the seam open, or it's also just easier to press the seams all to one side, and you get a fine look either way. Here I'm pressing the seams open, but it's a little more challenging, especially with that curved seam. So now you've got your hat in fabric A and in fabric B. And you want to put one inside the other with the right sides together. Match up those seam lines. Pin your seam allowances in place. If you've pressed them open, you want to pin the seam allowances open. If you've pressed them to the side, you want to pin them to the side. And then just pin all the way around that bottom raw edge of your hat. When we stitch this up, we're going to leave about a 3-inch opening so that we can turn it all right side out. So as you're pinning, leave a 3-inch opening. I like to do it near the back so it's not as visible. And then you're going to stitch along that raw edge with, again, a 3/8-inch seam allowance. Leaving that 3-inch opening where you're going to turn it eventually. And again, that 3-inch opening I suggest you put near the back so it's not as visible. Now you can turn that puppy inside out, right side out, I mean. And once you get it pretty much right side out, you can start finger pressing along that edge, making sure that all that extra fabric is pulled out and you've got a nice clean edge there. And then use your iron as you go to press as well. And where your opening is, you're going to press that seam allowance in and press with your iron just so it lines up with the rest of the seam. Now you're going to top stitch along that edge where you just pressed, between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch from the edge, all the way around the hat, including that part that you left open. You want to catch that opening so that that's closed up now. Okay, the hat portion is done. We're moving on to the ties. So you'll see notched edges, short notched edge on your tie. You want to lay your tie pieces together on that notched edge, right sides together, and pin along that edge. And then you're going to stitch that again with a 3/8-inch seam allowance. Press that seam allowance open. So right now you'll have 2 long ties, one in fabric A and one in fabric B, and you should press both of those seam allowances open. And then you're going to lay them one on top of the other with right sides together, matching up those seams and all of the raw edges. And then you'll stitch with a 3/8-inch seam allowance all the way around this tie except for, again, an opening, 3 to 4-inch opening where you're going to turn this tie right side out. When you get to those pointy corners, you just plant your needle and pivot. So now you're going to turn that tie right side out through that opening that you left. So just be patient and keep pulling all of your fabric through. And then when you get to the little pointy ends, I like to take a closed pair of scissors and gently push those into those corners to get a nice crisp corner. And now, just like we did with the hat, once you've got the tie all the way right side out, you want to finger press those edges and then press with your iron to get a nice crisp edge there. And again, where your opening was, you're going to press that seam allowance in and press with your iron so it lines up with the rest of the seam. And finally, you're going to top stitch all the way around the tie, 1/4 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch from the edge, and make sure that you close up that opening where you turned it through. Again, when you get to that pointy corner, you want to plant your needle and pivot.
Hello, I'd like to share with you a couple of ways to style the head hugger. So I've got the tie through the loops, and the center seam of the tie is centered between the loops. So you've got even lengths of tie on either side. Place it on your head with the loops at the back. And then I like to give this front part a little flip up. Then you're seeing your contrasting fabric too. And in the back, so that it fits your head nice and snugly, you want to crisscross those ties like that. Okay, so I've got them crisscrossed now. Now you're going to bring it up to the front, and you can, the first way that I like to do it is to crisscross them in the front and bring them all the way back to the back and tuck them in at the back. Okay, pretty simple. Okay, now the second way that you can do it, you start off the same way, crisscross in the back, bring them up to the front, and then this is more of an asymmetrical bow. So you're going to take the ties off to one side, pull one under the other, and then with the length where you've got a longer length, that part you're going to make a bow, and then you're going to use the other length to wrap around that and then tie. And then you can pull this bow part through until you get it the size that you want. Okay. All right, that's a little more jaunty, asymmetrical look. You can have fun with it. You can do it lots of ways. You could also just tie it in the back if you didn't want to wrap around. You just crisscross to make it tight, and then make a knot in the back. Okay, then you've got a nice long tie. It's a little more bohemian looking. Okay. I hope you have fun with it.
Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'll be adding more tutorials on a regular basis.